Welcome back to another episode of Athletic Conceptual Training Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Johnson, and today we're having a conversation that the veterinary profession needs to keep having. Not quietly, not behind closed doors, but out loud. Burnout among veterinary technicians isn't a motivation problem, it's a system problem. And if we want to help people stay in this profession, we have to talk about power, autonomy, and ownership, not just self-care. Today, I'm joined by my co-host, Katelyn Warford, as always. Katelyn, pass it off to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. I'm really excited about this episode. Today, we're talking with two technician business owners who are actively creating alternatives within veterinary medicine, not leaving the field, but reshaping it. We're joined by Michelle Crew, LVT, mobile veterinary technician business owner and co-host of Endless Journeys podcast, and Jennifer Kretz, LVT, CVT, Cert CN, relief technician business owner and advocate for technician autonomy.
This conversation is about what happens when technicians stop asking for permission and start building careers that actually last. Michelle and Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining. It's such an honor to have you two on. I know you have busy schedules and lives, so it's a real honor and privilege to sit here and be able to pick your brain and have honest and meaningful conversations today.
Yeah, of course. No, we're super excited that you asked us to be on, and yeah, we're ready to just have a great conversation and talk about, business ownership and how anyone really can do it.
Yeah. All right, let's buckle in and here we go. What's the moment you realized the traditional technician path wasn't sustainable and that you needed to build something of your own?
I know when it hit me. I was actually in a Dairy Queen parking lot when it when the moment struck. Yeah, it was maybe 2 years after I'd started my business, and my business was meant to just be something to hold me over until something better came along. Like, I didn't take it seriously, and I was like, boy, my contract is up, my non-compete is up, and it's like, I can go back to work and get back into the industry. And I thought to myself, like, but I made more money doing this, and I don't have to worry about KPIs or layoffs. And I was like, I think I'm just going to sit right here for a minute. And I think for me, that was the moment, was in that Dairy Queen, when I was like, I'm making more and it's more sustainable, and I feel like I have more stability doing this than a lot of my previous jobs. So that's when it hit me, and I was like, this could be a thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it hit me. It was a little bit more of a learning process for me. I had a job in emergency that I had started and I had worked in for almost a decade. And I literally said I was never going to leave that job. It was my unicorn clinic. It was perfect. I was never going to leave. I was going to retire at that job. And then I just felt not satisfied enough. And then I moved on, and then I got laid off like 7 months into a new job. And that's when like my whole world collapsed, because I'd never been laid off. I'd never been fired. And I was like, oh, I quit a perfect job. And then I realized when I got laid off that, just listening to podcasts and other avenues, relief was like something that I was like, man, that'd be really fun to do. And traveling would be really fun to do. And I remember talking to my husband about it at dinner. We had gone on a vacation, because he was like, perfect excuse, you got laid off, let's go on vacation. So I was like, I think I would love to do relief. And he's like, well, do it then. And I was like, no, I don't think I'm ready for that. I think I need to build up my skills. And so that's what I did. I ended up getting hired on to an emergency clinic at one of the big cities. And I just started building up my skills and learning everything I possibly could, because I wanted to build that foundation. And then things slowly built up, and I was like, I want to just start my own schedule, and I want to do my own thing, and I want to go on vacation. And I just did it. And then I quit my job. I went to Greece for 2 weeks. I came back, and then I just started building this relief business.
Yeah, that's
so awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that the support too. And your husband's just like, okay, let's do it. How do we go about it? And you're just like, wait, we got to at first.
Yeah. It was a slow process. But it was always something in the back of my mind. And I had thought about it too for so long, but that was just, and then doing my research. And then that's how I ended up finding the Unattached Vet Tech group that Michelle had started and built herself. And it was mostly focused on mobile veterinary technicians, but there were a couple of relief technicians that were dabbling in there as well and talking about it. And so I was a lurker. I was like, okay, I'm just going to lurk. I'm just going to watch how other people are doing it. And then maybe I'll dip my toes in. And then of course, mentors as well. But obviously there was a lot of signs that were eventually pushing me in that direction, because I was praying a lot, where I was like, open up the doors and then I'll walk through them. And then the doors were open and I was like, whoa, I don't know. Is that the right door? I'm not sure.
It's never when you're ready.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And that's why when you first said, well, wait, I need to build my skills first. And I'm like, where is this going? Is she actually gonna, go to the point where you're like, no, I actually do what I want to. And then I go into it, because obviously you're running the business, so something worked out. But sometimes we have those hesitations where you need to be perfect before you start something. And so I was just like, where is this going? But obviously you're here and you still went through it no matter how scary it was. So
yeah, I learned how to use a ventilator. I learned how to do central lines, at least the beginning of how to even just use them. Placing urinary catheters, that wasn't something I was doing at my other emergency clinic. So I thought that if I was going to do relief at these big hospitals, I was going to need to build my skills up a little bit more.
Love that. Relief work is often seen as temporary. So what made you guys recognize it as a long-term business and career strategy?
Do you want to go first, Michelle, or do you want me to take it from here?
I think she said relief, so if you take it, and I can chime in with the mobile afterwards. Yeah. Okay.
So as far as relief, I will say yes. For a lot of girls doing it on the side, it does make sense to just, have a full-time job and then maybe do relief work part-time. And I would say that if that's the way that you can do it, then that's what works for you. For me, I will admit I was lucky enough that I have a partner. I have a marriage, and I'm in a marriage, and he has a job. And so it makes it so that I can be a little bit more picky on what I want to do. But I do think that you can make a full career out of doing relief work. If you want it badly enough. You sell yourself, you collaborate, you network, what does it say? The vet med world is small. So once you start working for a hospital and then you start advertising that you're relief, and then other hospitals start talking, you can get so much work from that. And I will say that as soon as I started doing relief, I had multiple hospitals already asking me, to the point where I was having to tell people no very quickly within just a couple of months. So, if you do it right, you can do it, but you do have to think about, there's other things to think about as far as, and Michelle can vouch for this as well, health insurance, liability insurance, workers' comp, if that's something that you want to do as well. And then of course, if you are doing an LLC or not, things like that. But you have to spend money to make money. It's such a cliche thing, but if it can happen, you can make it work, but it's not going to be easy. I think a lot of girls can sometimes maybe go into relief and think that, I get to pick my schedule, like it'll be easy, it'll be simple. And it's not in the beginning, because you got to work. So,
I'm curious. Yeah. In my own way too, like just starting a business in general, like people have to know your name and do the networking and all of that to get that traction, and also just build that credibility and authority in that aspect. With the mobile tech side, Michelle, I know you mentioned you were in kind of doing your side, like business for years. It sounds like you mentioned. What kind of advice in that aspect of, like, with it doing your own business can be seen as temporary sometimes. What is your side on being in the mobile side?
Yeah, it can be temporary. It can be a side hustle. it can be a full-time thing. I think the beauty with mobile work is it's whatever you want to do that's going to fit your schedule. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions or things that are misunderstood too is by the veterinary industry, and by the humans, by the pet owners, is we're still either groomers or veterinarians. And I get a lot of people within the own industry who are like, well, so you're a groomer, right? I'm like, you're an LVT. You know I'm not a groomer. I'm an LVT like you. Just because I'm doing nails and anals doesn't mean I'm less than you. And that's what I want people to understand is like why I'm out working with these clients. I'm educating them all the time on their pets. I am the go-to person before they reach out to their doctors because they know me. I see them once a month. I'm in their homes. I'm having conversations with them. I notice the lumps, bumps, the itchy, the scratchy, the coughy, the sneezy. I notice that stuff. They tell me long before the pet sees the veterinarian. So a lot of my job is client education and getting these pets access to care faster. And I wish that the veterinary industry would understand that I'm not grooming, but at the same time, I'm not neutering cats. I'm right there in the middle and I'm supporting clients to get to you guys faster. And that's, I think, super valuable because we all want to use our skills. You know, like Ben said, we want to practice our skills, and why I'm not actively sticking and poking things, I'm using my knowledge.
I really like what both of you are saying. I want to pose two questions. One, starting with Jen. When we're talking about the relief business from a hospital leadership standpoint, what benefits does a hospital get from having a relief person like yourself, right? Because right now we're talking about on, the technician side, we have autonomy, right? We have flexibility, we have, the independence of being relief. What entices a hospital to work with relief technicians in your perspective, and what benefits do they get?
Yeah. Well, I will say the first benefit that I'm not sure if most hospitals are aware of this, but I'm technically a write-off. So if they hire me on as an independent contractor, I'm a write-off for them for taxes. So that's helpful. And there's actually one business owner that I work for where literally when I first got hired on with her, she was the original emergency clinic that I worked for. And she was the only one that I actually heavily discounted because I was like, you're my friend, you're my boss. Like I wouldn't be here without you. So I'm not going to charge you as much as I charge all these other hospitals. And eventually she was like, no, as a business owner, I deserve to pay you what you deserve to be paid. And I will pay you your rate. And so I was like, okay. And so I did it. And she even said, she was like, it's a write-off. It's fine. Don't even worry about it. So that's one. Another one is I feel like a lot of hospitals that I've gone in and worked at, they've learned, like their technicians have learned a lot from me. Just simple things as far as like blood draw techniques, even just the way I tape my IV catheters. I've had some girls be like, oh my gosh, that's a really cool way that you tape your IV catheters. I have just little things that I do that the girls are just like, they just want to suck up all that education. They just want to learn more. So when I go to these different hospitals, I can teach these different things that, yeah, maybe they're not huge, but the girls really adapt to it well. And also when I go in, I don't mind doing anything. Like I will clean the floors if that's what needs to be done. I really don't care. So that way, if there's girls that want to focus or on, more technical things, or if they want to learn how to do those more technical things, then I will sit there and I will take the time to teach them or to allow them to even just perform that skill. Mm. And then another thing is just the fact of even just yesterday, like somebody called in and I was like, it was in the morning and I was like, oh, I don't know. I don't feel very good like right now, but let me take the morning and see how I feel. And then I ended up feeling better. So I called and I said, hey, would it help if I worked, a 3 to 10 for you guys and just popped in? And they're like, oh my gosh, yes, that's amazing. Thank you. So even just popping in and just being that person that's just kind of on call and I can go in and then I'm also really in a good mood because I want to be there, right? Because I could have just been like, I don't feel like going in today. I'm not going in. But I felt like going in and I went in a good mood and I had a really good day yesterday. And and me being there was very, very helpful on the floor. So I see those as benefits to the hospital
Yeah.
in and of itself.
Yeah, I love that. And yeah, you're correct. And then circling back to you, Michelle, something that stood out, to me about what your response was, is that you seem to be more of a connector. And I feel like more hospitals should lean into their groomers because that relationship could be beneficial for both sides, actually. And thinking back, and I was thinking back on my time in leadership, there's only one hospital that I've ever worked for that actually leveraged their groomers connections. Do you think more hospitals should lean into that?
I'm gonna say yes, and I know that might not be the answer that most people who are listening to this would want to hear,
Yeah.
but
That's
truth
true.
is, these people, especially with the doodly breeds, they are seeing and touching your pet more often than the DVM is. That's the thing, is they can notice subtle things before the vet staff. So they absolutely should, but also too, a lot of groomers don't stay in their lane. So that's where we have the issue is, I know in my area, there are a couple groomers that I'm like, they're diagnosing. I saw my hands up here. I'm like, oh God, they're diagnosing. And they absolutely are, but they're not right. And it's not legal, but they're still doing it. So I feel like there should be more laws around what a groomer can do, just like us licensed vet techs can do. But then at the same time, hospitals should be leaning into them and knowing that their patients are in good hands while they're not with the doctor.
Yeah.
I also think in that aspect, like, do some of these groomers, yes, I know sometimes like the diagnosing stuff and all of that is a different reason, but is because we don't have that relationship with them the reason why they feel like they need to, and don't have that. Whereas if we gave that space and we're there for them, would it be different? Is also my other aspect, because then they feel like they can trust us to come with things too. Because I know we've talked about it before, that hesitation on both sides. Well, you do this, I do this, so we have to butt heads. And I know you've had that a little bit with, like you just said, I'm not a groomer. I still am an LPT. And so I'm curious, like, is there some of that into play too?
Oh yeah. It's odd because a lot of people in the veterinary industry, they just still picture me grooming and not connecting and not educating. And just for the record, I only do nails and anals and medication administration. So like the fluff and puff, I don't know how to do, and I always default back to the groomers. It is hard because on both ends, I feel like mobile vet techs are misunderstood in what we can do. And I have a lot of people who are like, well, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. And I'm like, well, I'm not doing it. And I'm practicing with the legal scope of my license. And yes, my owners ask me a lot of questions, but there's an organic relationship between me and my owners. And we're all in vet med. We know how this works. We know the greedy vet, I think, is what we have over our head. The vets just want money. They're in big kibble. Well, my clients know that I'm not attached to any clinic around here. I am 100% by myself. And I'll tell my clients, listen, I don't care if you go to your veterinarian and spend literally $1 million. They may send me a thank you card for like $1 million. I'm like, I have no financial gain. I have nothing. It does not matter to me financially or any other form of what you do with your pet. So also when I give them advice, like, yes, you know what, your cat has vomiting diarrhea. They're going to want blood work and x-rays. And here's why I would do blood work and x-rays in my pet. No, they're not just trying to add on unnecessary tests. Here's why they're doing it. That right there, I think, is one of the biggest things that is connecting the organic relationship, because they know me and they know what I'm saying is going to be on the best interest of their pet, because they're still going to pay me the same either way.
Yeah. Listen, so this is spending time on this conversation has been amazing. I just got to keep the conversation moving, and we're a little bit at time. So thank you for your thoughts on that. And I think that's something that we needed to continue to talk about in the veterinary field, and something that we alluded to off screen before we started. We all need to embrace the power of community. I think overall, that's how we survive as a field. And that means all of the field.
Yeah.
Moving on to the next question. A lot of retention conversations focus on keeping techs happy. You're showing that ownership keeps techs in the profession. Why isn't this talked about more?
Because people don't know that they can do it. Because when we talk about the veterinary field in general, you think about veterinarians. I mean, I don't know how many times I've told people I was a veterinary technician, and at the end of the conversation, they go and introduce me to somebody, and they say, "Oh, Jen's a veterinarian," and I'm like, "You weren't listening at all."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not even something that support staff in general is not empowered like veterinarians are. They are not looked at as important like veterinarians are. And we need to start seeing ourselves as vital team members, each and every one of us, assistants, licensed technicians, CSRs, just, all of us. And so it's just not talked about enough. We are not, how many times have you heard just a vet tech? So that's why me and Michelle are doing what we're doing. That's why we have the podcast that we have, because we had to give ourselves the empowerment. We had to find it within ourselves and to realize and to research and to know, hey, we can do this too. We can make it happen, and let it be known that others can do it as well.
Yeah. Michelle, do you want to weigh in before I?
Yeah. I agree with everything Jen said. It's the thought process isn't there. And also too, I think there's a lot of intimidation with starting up your own business. A lot of people don't know the steps, or they get, worried about having an LLC. For some reason, that is a big barrier to technicians. It's like, I feel like once you get an LLC, it's like, oh man, I'm official. I have to tell the government what I'm doing. And so I feel like that's a barrier, is just knowing the basic steps of starting a business. And it does not take a business degree or advanced education. I certainly don't have one, and I was able to do it. It's just a few steps. And I think the thought of it gets intimidating once you start putting your head down that rabbit hole. So once we go over that, and it's easy and it's doable.
Oh my gosh, that's a clip right there.
Right.
Yeah.
I have something to say after you, Ryan.
Go ahead. No, please.
Well, one thing too that I've noticed with doing my own business too is not only, like, of course I have no background in the aspect of, do I do LLC, do I do all this, like, that's all scary in itself. But what I realized the biggest thing is, even though I've been through my own health journey and I thought I was, everything mindset wise and all of that I was in the clear for, starting my business, I hit a whole wall of things that I didn't realize I still needed to conquer mindset wise and like work through. Like, there's a lot of limiting beliefs and fears that will come out when you start doing stuff like this, because you're doing it for yourself, and then you can't, like, you're the one that's going to get in the way of yourself. So you have to actually grow and heal while you're doing a business. And I can always help with that. But like, I'm just saying, like, that was something I noticed that was huge with me. And now I'm finally at the point to where I'm not letting those limiting beliefs hold me back anymore. Well, I have to rely on Ryan a little bit to help me with that. But like, that's where your support system comes in too. But like, they're still there, even a year and a few months into it. And so I just want to make sure, like, people realize, like, it's okay to have support through that too, because that was huge for me.
Well, and it's all on you. You have to invest 100% in yourself. So you have to believe in yourself. And that's hard for people to do. It
is. When you've never done it before. Like, yeah.
Well, I love all of this because, again, and I sound like a broken record at this point, but you listeners, you're looking at 4 entrepreneurs telling you that we started our own thing, but at some point you have to rely on your community. And if on a small scale, we're telling you this, could you imagine for the profession? Could you imagine for each individual sector of the profession? At some point, we're gonna have to collaborate. The gatekeeping, the exclusivity, the snotty mindsets does not work for real growth.
No.
I just really want to like let that set in, you know.
Well, and it's
Go ahead.
That's why we all, like, a lot of us are so angry. And I know I've talked about this on your guys' podcast. We are all so angry, but it's because everyone doesn't feel heard or seen. And so now we're just attacking each other because we don't feel heard and seen. And so then it's never ending when the answer is actually just come together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Look, if I could ask Jen and Michelle and kind of dig into this a little bit, and this will be our last question. We're gonna have to, you know, have a part 2.
Yes.
But what made you feel comfortable reaching out to each other for help, or what steps led you to each other?
Well, the Unattached Vet Tech group that Michelle started was where I originally found her. And I obviously looked up to everything she was doing at the time. And I was still working full time at the emergency clinic that I was working at, still dabbling in just thinking about relief. Mm-hmm. And Michelle was talking about building the association. So are you comfortable talking about that, Michelle? The association?
Yes, just since we're still brand new and we're a little over a year old and we're just starting the basic blocks, just the basic information.
Okay. So there was talk about starting an association and I wanted to be a part of it. And so me and Michelle had a meeting, and in that short meeting, I feel like we were kindred spirits automatically. Like, we really clicked. And I told her, I was like, you need to start a podcast, because I know that when I was trying to start my business, I was looking for any information that I could gather on how to build a business as a licensed technician. And she's like, I've thought about it, but I don't know how to do it. And I was like, I would do it. I don't, so I was just I was very supportive of that. And so, I don't know, I think a couple weeks later, I just said, screw it. And I decided I was going to start a podcast, and I just announced it. I just did it, and I had no idea what I was doing. And I just announced it to everybody. And Michelle saw the post because I announced it on the Unattached Vet Tech group. And she messaged me and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you're doing this. Can I be a co-host? And I was like, yes.
I love it.
Yeah. I mean, the truth is, and I told Jen when she just mentioned it when I was meeting with her for the association, she had just slightly mentioned, oh, I've been thinking about doing a podcast. And I immediately wanted to ask, let's do one. But I was like, I just met this girl like 2 minutes ago, so I don't want to be that person. So I was waiting a couple weeks just to be like, okay, play it cool, Michelle. Don't act, don't be that jumpy person. And then when she announced it, I was like, it's now or never. And I was like, hey, I've been thinking about you for the past 2 weeks. Do you want to do this? So that's kind of, that's how we met, was through the groups. And now as co-host, we lean on each other a lot, Ryan, just much like you and Katelyn. Jen takes care of all of the editing, because as I said, I'm not good with technology. So she excels in that area. And then I take care of all the messaging, onboarding, scheduling, all the peopling. So it's collaborative teamwork, once again, where she takes her half, I take my half. We come together and we try to make something beautiful. Like I said, we don't want to gatekeep this information. We don't want to gatekeep how to be a mobile vet tech. We don't want to gatekeep how to be relief tech, because if we gatekeep, we're just going to hold the industry back.
Right.
Like, why not? Yeah. I mean, it's not a secret formula to Coca-Cola. It is not the next cure to cancer. It is basic information and success and failure stories that we came together, decided to share so that people could learn from us and learn from our mistakes and learn from others as well.
And we're so heartbroken over the amount of people on these Facebook groups that are wanting to leave the vet field. Right. Every time I read a post like that, it breaks my heart, because I know that these girls are so passionate and they care so much. And that's why they're leaving, because they have all this passion and all this care, and they don't know how to manage it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, we're here at time. These conversations are ongoing, and your insight has been, amazing. And we need to have these conversations going forward. I just want to say thank you both for the honesty, the leadership, and the work that you keep doing to push this profession forward.
Yeah, absolutely. For consistency, that's all it takes, right?
Oh, Woo, say that again.
That's a whole thing I can go down
Oh,
to. So
yeah. Consistent. That's another podcast right there.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And thank you both for showing that there just isn't just one way to build a meaningful, sustainable career in VetMed.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For everyone listening, make sure to check out Endless Journeys and support the technician-led business doing this work on the ground. If this conversation resonated, share it with someone who needs to hear it and let them know that there are options. We'll see you on the next episode of Athletic Conceptual Training Podcast. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.